Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
A much more stern-looking Donald Trump is coming to the Colorado State Capitol building. A new portrait of him will hang on the wall of presidents there. It appears to be a painting of Trump's official photograph. You might remember that he didn't like the original one, even though it was commissioned and approved by Republicans. The whole dust-up means that now the Colorado Capitol Committee may scrap the whole wall of presidential portraits and replace them with our former governors. I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, some Colorado mountain towns are trying to attract visitors, but lately, numbers are dropping.
It's just been consistently going down.
Why tourism is taking a hit in Colorado. Then, Aurora City Council puts an end to the public comment period.
They can't restrict someone's speech because of what they say.
Now, a judge will decide whether that's legal. And new graduates who are the first in their families to navigate the post-college job market.
I'm trying to have them remember me, not for what's on my resume, but the impression that I made just being myself.
It's Friday, June 27th. Here's the news in Colorado today. If you're still making plans for an overnight trip to the mountains this summer, you may have an easier time finding an open place to stay. That room might be a bit cheaper. That's one way to find a silver lining in this story about a drop-off in tourism in Colorado's mountain towns.
Well, it's a little bit of a roller coaster.
Chris Romer is the CEO of the Vail Valley Partnership. He says there have been big swings in lodging reservations month to month.
At the end of March, we were looking pretty good for the summer months and pretty good looking forward, up a little bit over the same time last year.
But then President Trump announced his sweeping tariff plan.
Our booking pace really took it in the chin, and we went from our pacing being up to being down about 4%. So our pacing went from a positive at the end of March to a negative year over year at the end of April.
Romer believes the cause is the U.S. shifts on tariffs, political rhetoric, and heightened scrutiny over who's coming into the country.
I think that uncertainty is bad for travel and tourism. When there is economic uncertainty, when people don't know, and there's that chaos in the marketplace.
A big concern in Vail is the loss of international travelers, especially during ski season. Data show that visitation from Canada, Europe, and Mexico is falling in U.S. mountain towns. At the Antlers in Vail Village, a vacation rental property, 45% of winter business is from overseas guests. Sales manager Amy Hudgens says they're already starting to see a drop-off.
We lost 3 really big reservations for us, and it was all due to the Canadians not wanting to spend their money in America. It's flat out, when we asked the question, why are you not coming back after being here for 20 plus years? And that's the answer.
Aspen also has a big international presence in the winter. Eliza Voss at the Aspen Chamber Resort Association says they're preparing for fewer visitors from overseas.
We are kind of brainstorming with our tourism partners at Snowmass Tourism as well as Aspen Skiing Company, Aspen One, on what types of promotions and marketing we can do to try and mitigate any shortcomings as a result of international.
Not all Colorado resort communities are as reliant on international travelers, but even in places like Breckenridge, which gets most of its traffic from Colorado, Texas, and Florida, city budget managers are concerned. Breck's finance director, Dave Bird, says they expect this summer's visitation to be down 10% from last year. Breckenridge Revenue Manager Pam Ness says local hotels are cutting prices to attract guests, but they're still not filling up.
And it's just been consistently going down.
She thinks the issue is tighter vacation budgets. More people from the Front Range are coming up for day trips instead of spending the extra cash to stay overnight. There's also a slowdown in retail sales, suggesting people are spending less money on souvenirs. Bird says the town is putting together a lean budget for 2026.
We're going to keep it a conservative view.
The pullback in tourism isn't just a local issue. In the region, tourism supports hundreds of thousands of jobs in hotels, restaurants, ski resorts, and bars, and that fills the local and state coffers. In 2023, tourism brought in $1.8 billion in tax revenue across Colorado. As of this week, Breckenridge is still not quite full for the 4th of July weekend. Last-minute bookings may save the day. In the coming days, Romer and other business leaders in Colorado's mountain towns are keeping fingers crossed for a stable economy.
At the end of the day, travel is a discretionary spend. People need to buy food and they need to do certain things. No one needs to do a vacation. You know, Americans have a certain sense of birthright, that vacation and travel is a birthright. But at the end of the day, it's a discretionary item in people's household budgets.
Thanks to CPR's Sarah Mulholland for this reporting. You can read more from her at the link in our show notes. Have you ever attended a city council meeting? Not many would call that a good time, but many do think it's an important part of democratic governance. And in Aurora, you can no longer attend city council meetings in person, and even online, there's no more opportunity to share your thoughts during the public comment period that's typically at the end of the meeting. As you may expect, after the city council made those changes, they're being sued. CPR reporter Tony Gorman is here to explain more. Tony, shutting down meetings to the public seems like a pretty drastic step. Why did the city council do this?
Basically, they feel like their meetings had gotten out of control. This is mostly connected to a police shooting in Aurora. Supporters of a man who was killed by police have been showing up at city council meetings for months, demanding justice. His name was Kylan Lewis. His family has sued the city, claiming it was a wrongful death. Some brief background: he was unarmed, holding a cell phone, when a SWAT team member shot him. And at city council meetings, members of the family have been taking to the lectern, often as a group, during the public comment portion.
So speaking during public comment, how has that become a problem?
Well, sometimes it's gone beyond public comment. At times, supporters have stopped meetings by chanting Lewis's name. They're accused of preventing others from speaking by taking up most of the time.
This meeting now becomes ours.
And sometimes heckling other speakers. And there have been shouting matches that have spilled outside of the council chambers. The city council found this disruptive, basically unworkable. First, they tried to limit the number of speakers who could come up during the public comment portion, but that didn't work. In multiple Facebook posts, Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman has alleged that the city council members were being threatened and harassed. He claims the Lewis family is only after money.
So they've suspended in-person meetings, removed that public comment period. Is that legal?
According to the legal experts I spoke with, city councils are not required to hold public comment as part of their meetings.
So if it's legal, what is this new lawsuit about?
So this is a federal lawsuit. It alleges that the Aurora City Council is singling out and limiting the speech of the Lewis family and its supporters, that this amounts to viewpoint discrimination, that the city council is unwilling to listen to their complaints about police brutality.
You said viewpoint discrimination. Can you tell us more about that, what it means?
That's something I talked to Jeff Roberts about. He's the executive director of the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, a group that promotes open access to government records and meetings.
They can set certain rules to limit how much time each speaker has. And if people get disruptive, they can do something about that. But they can't restrict someone's speech because of what they say. Public comment is not required, but did they suspend it because of what these particular speakers have been saying about the police shooting of Kylan Lewis? Now, Aurora will say, well, we suspended it for everyone, not just those speakers.
Roberts went on to say that the judge will have to decide whether it's more important to protect freedom of expression at these meetings or make sure they can continue without disruption.
This is certainly something that is not specific to Aurora. Many other cities have had issues with disruption at city council meetings. Will this lawsuit have a ripple effect outside of Aurora?
It could. There are other cities that have limited public comment in different ways in order to avoid disruptions. The plaintiff in this case thinks that shouldn't happen. Here's Roberts again.
The most effective way to have public comment is to be standing there in person and talking directly to your elected officials. And hopefully those elected officials are listening to what you have to say.
I'll add one more thing for context. If you want to speak at meetings in Aurora, you can still speak on specific agenda items as the council's discussing those topics during a virtual public hearing portion, even though there's no broader chance for public comments now.
CPR's Tony Gorman, thank you.
Thank you.
A Colorado group is helping first-generation college students land their first jobs after graduation. The job market is pretty tough for just about everyone right now. There's only about one open position for every unemployed person in the state. CPR's Jenny Brundine met a group trying to help recent grads who are the first in their families to go to college. Jenny, what makes the job market even more difficult for first-gen college students?
Beyond the specialized skills that many jobs require, just getting noticed by employers often comes down to who you know. And most first-gen students don't have the kinds of networks that give others a leg up. Here's how Jimena Valencia put it.
Because people don't want someone that has good grades, because anybody can do that. They want to know your story.
And to tell your story, you have to have access to people in the circles who have the careers that these students have studied for. That means developing networking skills, something that Valencia says she didn't learn in her family.
As Hispanics, coming from our culture, they don't really teach us how to put ourselves out there.
Who is it that's trying to help? Who is the group that you met trying to tackle this problem?
Yeah, there's a Denver-based organization, Global Minded, and it's all about helping first-gen students build the soft skills and networks that students from college-educated families often grow up with. They teach them networking skills, professional etiquette, and help with shaping resumes and career paths. They also connect students with role models, mentors, internships, and job opportunities. And here's an example. A retired engineer mentor in particular made a huge difference for Brian Isasaga, who now works at Lockheed Martin.
He really helped open the door to networking events and coaching me as to how to interview, how to work on my resume, projects to work on in school, classes to take. So he really helped shape my early career.
One of Global Minded's key efforts is a 3-day conference packed with workshops, panels, one-on-one connections, and I went to that conference last week.
How was it?
Well, to be frank, there was acknowledgement that artificial intelligence is displacing some entry-level jobs, but there were also uplifting conversations about the role of AI in shaping new industries and learning. There's also uncertainty because of some of the Trump administration directives against diversity and equity initiatives. That's caused some big companies to scale back internship programs. At the same time, the vast majority of the conference was inspiring to see how committed industry leaders, academics, and young people are to working together. Here's a young woman I met, 20-year-old Vanessa Cepeda, on what she learned about networking at the job fair.
I'm trying to make an impression. I'm trying to have them remember me, not for what's on my resume, but the impression that I made just being myself.
We wish Vanessa luck. What field is she hoping to go into?
She ultimately wants to be a diplomat. She knows it's going to be a long journey, but she already knows 3 languages, and she's also studying international marketing, so she hopes to get a marketing job to start.
Fingers crossed for her. And for anyone listening who is or who knows a first-gen graduate, how can they get help like this?
You can go to their website, globalminded.org.
CPR education reporter Jenny Brundeen. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Reporting for today's show also came from the Colorado Capital News Alliance. To keep up with the biggest stories happening in our state, be sure to follow Colorado Today in your podcast app and share it with a friend. I'm Bazi Kanani. I'll be out of pocket for a couple of weeks, but look forward to being back with you in July. Have a great weekend. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, proud to stock fresh produce, tender cuts of meat, and more from Colorado farms and local small businesses. You support local when you shop at Safeway. Shop at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app. Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.